I think you do eventually get to the point where you're dealing with different problems. The problems that seem completely overwhelming in the beginning that you were like, oh my gosh, this is never going to get any better. They do kind of get to a maintenance point, and then you're dealing with something else. Hey everybody, welcome to Epic Everyday. I'm Liz Frerichs, and this is my husband Evan.
Good day.
And we're so glad that you're here with us.
Yep.
As you guys know, this week we are talking about being busy and the CSCs and how those are related.
Yeah. Anybody know how to be busy?
Yeah. Obviously, we all are way too busy. We live in a society that's too busy. So, if you guys don't remember what the CSCs are, they're being calm, surrendered, centered, connected, and complete.
Yeah.
And we have really experienced how those things have changed our lives. Just on a momently kind of basis.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, little by little, they're related to Tai Chi, and you've been doing Tai Chi for
7 years.
Yeah.
6 years. Yeah. They're actually an adaptation of Peter Ralston's Tai Chi principles.
Yeah.
So, and we've definitely seen them. I mean, they've completely changed my life applying them.
Yeah, and right. Every aspect, I'd say. I mean,
Yeah.
And that's the thing with the CSCs. Like, it's not just going to be about trying to not be busy or so busy or stressed or whatever. It's going to be about kind of reformatting your life in general.
Right. It's a mind shift, but once you make it, I mean, it affects everything and makes everything so much better, including being busy.
That's right. And so today's Tuesday, we're going to talk about being surrendered in opposition to being busy.
Yes.
Surrender is an interesting idea. I think, religion in general, Christian specifically, 'cause that's ours. But, it's a common idea, but I don't know if people realize that you're always doing it. You're always surrendering to something. If it's,
right.
So what is it? You're going to choose to be surrendered, in this case, to the busy. I wrote down calm. That was yesterday. But really, you're going to surrender yourself to your schedule, or you're going to take some control of it.
Right.
And actually, by take control of it, really means transfer that control to God. Because when you control it, that's when you're in the busy, really.
Right. Kind of like a river that's just like, we've had a lot of flooding around here.
Yeah.
So, that like flood stage river that's rushing by. And I think a lot of the time that's how we feel about our lives and our schedules. It's just so out of control. It's pulling you along, and it's all you can do just to like stay swimming enough to be afloat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but my point kind of is whether we realize it or not, we've made a choice to jump in there.
Right.
But then it does sweep us away. I mean, nobody wants that.
You have to, anytime you're surrendered, like you're always surrendered to something. There's always something that has some kind of control over your life.
Yeah. So my main question was, which is harder? What do you think about that? To the default surrender kind of is just that. It's your default. Maybe, you just run your life the way your parents ran their lives. You're surrendered to that, even though that seems like the no-brainer. Or you're going to take some inventory, make some deliberate choices, try to, maybe you didn't come from a faith background. You're trying to get connected to the truth of the universe, and you're going to find the God of the Bible, which is harder, or which has worse what are the consequences?
I think they're both hard for different reasons. I mean, before I became a believer, when I was like, I am running my own life and I am doing things the way that I want to do them, I ran my ship into the ground, like it did not work well at all. And the consequences were awful. But it was really, really hard to say, okay, Lord, I'm going to surrender to you and let you run my life. So, but then the consequences have been amazing. you know,
Yeah.
being able to have, just to let go of a lot of that junk that was in my background and work through it.
Yeah. And from the other side, you're able to see how hard it was to
Right.
surrender to all the stuff that, was ruining your life.
Right. I think that it's harder personally, and this may not be true for everyone, but because of the trauma in my background, it would have been a lot harder not to surrender.
Mm.
Like, it was hard to surrender because I didn't trust anybody, and it took me probably almost 10 years after I became a Christian before I finally was like, I could say that I trusted God and it was true, you know?
Interesting. Yeah.
But doing that work has made all the difference. It's kind of like whether you have all the work up front and then, things run more smoothly after that, even if there's still work that you're putting in, or whether you have work like consistently.
Yeah.
Kind of like what we were talking about yesterday with the house that cleans itself stuff. How, you put all this work into the house, like to rearrange things, but then after that, it's pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're just in maintenance mode.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that I'm gonna, inventory and figure out what needs to change in my life and allow the Lord to work in those things is that upfront work.
Yeah. And I think that's where we get hung up. Like seems so difficult and so hard to kind of take that step of faith into, it's really into the unknown. I mean, if you've never had a self-examined life before, or that unknown, that is, it seems harder. Like I think that's what you're saying.
Right.
It seems harder and unsurmountable, and then it's better. I mean, I don't know if I'd ever say it's easy, but it's better.
But I think you do eventually get to the point where you're dealing with different problems. The problems that seem completely overwhelming in the beginning, that you were like, oh my gosh, this is never going to get any better. They do kind of get to a maintenance point, and then you're dealing with something else. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't get easy, but it gets different.
I don't think we'd want it to. I don't know. We think we want to retire and live on a beach somewhere, but yeah, I mean, it's actually been encouraging to me to realize more and more that there's no finish line. You get to your goal, and then you set another one.
Right.
And that's fulfilling, and that's a good full life.
Right.
You don't get to your goal and set up camp or whatever. And,
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe some people do, but anyway, and at each point you've got to be surrendered to this. Christians call it sanctification, this growth process of spiritual development, where God is like, okay, good, you learned that. Now what about this? And I'm going to help you.
Yeah.
I'm going to help you get there. And yeah, it looks hard, but we're going to get through this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what were your thoughts for
Well,
surrender?
I was thinking more like practical, daily kinds of stuff. For me, a lot of the difference between being busy and surrender means that when my schedule is surrendered to the Lord, I am way more open to what He wants to do. Whereas if I am busy and rushing...
So your schedule can actually be more flexible?
Right. If I'm busy and rushing, I'm like, this is what has to get done. I am doing this. I'm going from A to B to C to D, and then if something happens to upset that, I'm just like, no,
Right.
it turns into freak out mode. And I don't have energy, say one of the kids gets injured or like stubs their toe, not something major, but something minor.
Right, but it still takes,
Right, well, and then in that moment, instead of being able to be like, oh, honey, I love you and it's okay, my first reaction is like, ugh, you're messing up my schedule,
Yep.
So I think taking that time to just surrender and be like, okay, Lord, I'm busy, but you take my schedule and you deal with it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be open,
That's another huge speed bump. I mean, surrender is letting go of control, letting go of the
Right.
outcome, and that's seems impossible sometimes.
Right. Well, I think it's really hard, especially if you don't believe that God has a good plan for your day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was something that was so convicting to me,
Mm.
and something that I have written in my journal to remind myself is God has a good plan for my life today. It's
Yeah.
not a good plan, like yes, it's a good plan lifetime wise, but
Oh,
there's
sure.
good in today.
Yeah.
And so I want to be open to that. Beth Moore talks about how, like, God has a treasure chest for each day.
Mm.
And if we are rushing and white knuckling our way through
Yeah.
the day,
We're not.
we miss out on that.
Yeah.
So,
That's a good way to think about it, I think. And I think, I think we forget. I don't know. We get so, and rightly so, I guess, as Christians, we think of our eternal destiny, being in heaven someday with our grandparents, or all these things that we want and look forward to.
right,
But life here now is just as important. I mean,
right,
and that's why Jesus became a man. He came into that reality, our reality, with to be with us, to suffer with us, and to show us how to live. And we were just talking about this last night at the elder board at church, where you know our traditions and our creeds focus on Jesus's virgin birth and his death and the resurrection, and they forget about the 33 years in between where
yeah,
he lived among us. And that there's a lot there. I mean, the way he was homeless and he was peaceful, he was surrendered, he was calm, he was connected, he was complete,
right,
and he's our ultimate example.
yeah.
And he was a man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who's fully God and fully man.
Yeah.
Like, you can't ditch one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But yeah, he's so it's just kind of another, I don't know, just another realization that there's more to pursue,
right,
in our spiritual lives. We don't want to, get to some goal there and just kind of start, marking time or treading water or whatever either. We want to keep going.
right. Right. Well, we want to be open to, like I said, what's going on today.
Hmm.
So hopefully you guys are listening to this in the morning. And
Yeah.
if you're not, whatever. But it's a good way to start your day, just to refocus and be like, yep, this is what I'm doing today.
Hmm.
I'm doing my CSCs. So, I mean, stop and recognize that God has a good plan for your life today.
Yeah.
Today.
And if it's unclear what that is, ask.
Yeah.
And spend some time in the Word. But really, the prayer thing, I think some Christians think that is some sort of a magic spell, or maybe it has to be something you memorized when you were a kid. But really, it's just talking to God and
Right.
listening.
I think it's in James 5 where James is talking about, the people that are like, today we're going to go to this city and next year we're going
Oh
to do
yeah,
this, like having this plan in advance. And he's like, you fools, you know, I can't remember exactly where it goes, but the idea that God can require your life at any point in time. Like,
mm-hmm.
you have no control over what's going to happen in your life.
Yeah,
So, and that's the reality of the situation. Like, I have no control over my schedule. Yes, I do my best to, make a plan and execute said plan,
mm-hmm.
but the fact is, well, it's like last week, our computer died,
Yeah.
and
That was
suddenly
a major wrench.
my entire plan completely
When
changed,
everything became about the computer. Our
Right.
entire 3 days was, what are we going to do about this? And trying things and researching things and talking to friends and experts and gathering information. Yeah, it just really kind of
Right.
turned things, and no control.
Right.
And then it was fine. I
Yeah.
mean, and in the midst of it, there was times of like, there's all the, I didn't have this, I don't have time for this. And then we were able to surrender and try to get connected to our CSCs. But it was an ebb and flow. It was up and down. And,
Right.
we tend
Definitely.
to balance each other out. Fortunately, when one person's freaking out, the other person's usually calm. And then we trade places. And,
Yeah.
we're good for each other like that. So it takes, a good friend too. You can't do it
Help you
yourself.
remember.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, on that note, if you would like to be part of our community, join our Facebook page. If you'd like to get a hold of us, you can message us on Twitter. Evan's handle is @aKindOfLying.
Yeah, and Liz's is Eliz Frerichs. I'd love to hear from you. Your thoughts on surrender, your thoughts on the CSCs in general, any questions you may have. Yeah. How busy are you?
Yeah. If you have any other topics you guys think that we should address, we would love suggestions because we're going to be doing this for a while.
Yeah, and those CSCs apply to everything. I mean,
really? Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see. You'll see.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're praying for you guys, and we hope that you have an awesome Tuesday.
That's right. See you later.
Bye.